Great. Well, welcome everybody to the community conversation on revenue generation. It's lovely to see actually quite a few new folks, at least in my experience. My name is Seema Patel. I'm a senior advisor with Collective Mind. So I wanted to just quickly give you an overview of who Collective Mind is, why we're here, and then perhaps while I'm doing that, slides three onwards have a couple of open slots for you to check in. So we would love to know who you are, your name, your network, where you are today and how you're feeling. One word, one sentence, whatever you like. So feel free to spread around the different slides. We might have a small group today, which is just fine. But yeah, feel free to just let us know who you are. We would love to get to know you. So while you're doing that, Collective Mind, for those who are new to our events, we're really all about networks. So we work with networks and network managers to help them basically do what they do best and be more effective and impactful in the collective impact that they're trying to generate. So on one side of that, what we do is focus on consulting. So we provide advisory services, tools, capacity building, coaching, etc., to networks. And then the other side of that is that we provide professional development opportunities and learning sessions, such as this one. So we have a Collective Mind Academy that has a number of different tailored workshops, coaching sessions, modules, etc. And then we have a whole variety of open and free learning sessions that I'll talk about if we have time at the end of today's session. And so these community conversations, like the one that we're holding today, they're unique in the sense that we're inviting outside expertise and experiences to come and share what they've been through, what their challenges are, and basically create a space for not only them to share what they have to offer in terms of experience, but really create the space for you all to come in and share your experiences and insights on the topics as well, and learn from your peers. So that's what we're doing here today. For anybody that just joined, I have chatted a link in the chat box for you to follow through with the slides, and also to just type in your name and network and some of the other prompts that are in slides 3 through 5 or 6, I believe, just to introduce yourself. I don't want to talk too much because I really want this to be about what you all have to share and to welcome our panelists. So I'm going to kick it off with an introduction to the agenda, which is really what we've already done, having the co-hosts and the panelists here to maybe do about 5 minutes each about their experience with generating revenue within their own networks. What have they tried? What has worked? What are sort of the different ways that they've approached it, and perhaps even the origin of where those ideas came from. And then we're going to open it up for both Q&A, both to the panelists, but also for all of you. We'll have some questions to prompt you to have you join into the conversation, share your own experiences. So with that, if you are following the slides that are chatted, we are on slide, forgive me, trying to do many things at once. We are on slide 8. So to introduce you to our panelists, we have Mohammad Issa, who is the president of Creativity Lab, and Beth Unverzagt. Unverzagt. Beth, I'm going to let you correct me when it's your turn. Executive Director of OregonASK. And for anybody that has joined, please go ahead and introduce yourself using the slides that are available to you from 3 to 6, just to let us know who you are. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over so you guys can give more robust introductions to yourself and then talk a little bit about your work. Why don't we go ahead and start with you, Mohammad?
Everyone, thank you very much, Seema. My name is Mohammad Issa. I am the General Manager of Yes Theater for Communication Among Youth, which is a Palestinian NGO located in Hebron city. Also, I'm the president of a Palestinian initiative, which is called the Creativity Lab for Empowerment and Innovation. We are specialized in three main domains or fields. They are creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I used to be a BOD member in the Palestinian Performing Arts Network, and today, I'm going to share with you my experience and the adoption of social entrepreneurship as a method to generate incomes, particularly for networks.
Great. Actually, why don't we go ahead and, Mohammad, have you go ahead with your, talking about your work, and then we'll turn it over to Beth.
I have started to be interested in the entrepreneurship since 2011, and actually we had an internal discussion here at Yes Theater about how we can get rid of donors. Here, when I'm talking about Yes Theater, I'm talking about a nonprofit organization. It's a member in different networks, but actually what we are doing at Yes Theater could be adopted by the networks, and I will clarify how we can do this. We were thinking about, let's say, an approach that could be adopted that helps us to get rid of donors and generate income. And we discovered by coincidence, the entrepreneurship world. And we had a project which is called Puppets for Kids. And the idea behind the project is to develop it in such a way in order to generate income. And we started the process in 2011. We've been recognized by the United Nations Alliance as one of the, let's say, best practice in the Middle East in terms of social entrepreneurship. Now, this social enterprise is still running. We have more than 10 people who are working for this enterprise, and they are not connected officially with Yes Theater. I mean, they are not fixed employees. No, they are freelancers and consultants that generate their income, and the impact of what they are doing is reflected positively on our program as an organization. This relationship with entrepreneurship is very strong, and we were trying. I was trying before years ago to convince the Palestinian networks about the importance of entrepreneurship. Palestine as donors-driven country, and the problematic issue that we have a big competition. We have a lot of international organizations, and the networks are doing their work in a very traditional way. It means that they are gathering. If we are talking about individual memberships or even organizational ones, they are gathering in order to show off, not to serve the community. This is why that I was trying all the time to clarify to my colleagues and the Palestinian cultural sector, and even the people who are serving national networks, the importance of social entrepreneurship as a way in order to generate income. And this is what now people have started to accept, especially after the pandemic, because all of us suffer in the world from the lack of resources. So they have started, to think about this issue. They are late, but it doesn't mean that they cannot do it. Now we have a capacity building program that will be implemented for one of the Palestinian national networks that gathers more than 14 organizations. These organizations will be trained to or to develop a joint program that could generate income later on. And this program is based on different fields of performing arts.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Beth, why don't we turn it over to you? Talk a little bit about your work and how you generate revenue.
Thank you, Seema. I'm thrilled to be here and see all of these new faces. So we are very focused on programs for children and youth. So after school and summer programs, and we do not provide programs ourselves. So we're part of a national initiative funded by the C.S. Mott Foundation in part. And then also we get some government funding, not very much. and started 15 years ago. The Mott Foundation now has established this network across the country. So there's a group like ours in every state. So I've seen the evolution of this. And the foundation also supports national technical assistance. So when I met Mohammad, I was very excited because we have technical assistance from an entrepreneurship national organization that he mentioned. So we have focused our work on improving the quality of after school and summer programming. So we do policy, partnership, and professional development. We are in a crisis around how we care for children. And so we're really about building better systems. And so convincing government agencies, looking at public policy and rules. And we've made a lot of headway in 15 years. So, and then we provide training and technical assistance to programs to improve the quality of what they provide to children and youth. We do a lot of sort of special projects with, so like mapping and analysis of a city system. And then we gather programs to come and speak with legislators, both on the national and state level. So small piece of what we do.
Thanks so much, Beth. So just to recap, so Beth, there are 3 ways that you mainly generate revenue, correct? Can you just recap for everybody what those 3 ways are?
So training and technical assistance, contracts with school districts or government agencies, and then special projects. So we do a lot of STEM work. So we have special research projects that we do. So primarily those are the 3 ways. I've attended and done every kind of fundraising. Graduate of Lilly Valley of the Lilly School of Philanthropy, and I don't see it really being productive to spend all my time raising money to do the work that I need to do. So I try to find ways in which the work that we do actually will generate income.
And Mohammad, can you also do the same? Can you recap your ways of generating money?
You know, actually, first of all, I would like to comment on what just mentioned by Beth. Actually, you know, when you spend a long time of your life and serving the non-governmental sector, you may face a problem when you are shifting your mindset from one step to another one. And with the limitations of resources, you need to think out of the box. And I do believe that what we are doing here at Yes Theatre or in the Performing Arts Network is totally different than relying on donors, because we get rid of this. We are fed up with filling applications, getting in touch with donors, thinking about fundraising mechanisms that could help us to secure our financial needs. What we are trying to do is totally different, is to develop as service that are needed by the local community, taking into consideration that we are doing a social entrepreneurship project. It's a profitable project, but it has its own social impact. We are not doing this for commerce. We are not doing this to have profits. We are doing this for the benefit of the community. But how we do it in a different way. This is the idea of what we are doing. What we are doing is providing the local community with services. In our case at Yes Theatre, we have different workshops that deliver to the local community, such as the puppets making workshops. We have a lot of performances that are produced based on case studies and requests made by the international organizations and the Palestinian government. And for the network, we are working with the Palestinian young artists, especially when they are developing their startups. And even if any organization would like, to get a service in terms of training or something like this.
Wonderful. Let's open it up. What reflections do folks that are in the virtual room today have based on what Beth and Mohammad shared, or what have been your own experiences in trying to do similar initiatives, or trying to do something different, or even trying something that hasn't worked? What's come up for you? Go ahead, Ismail. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm based off of Toronto, and I'm part of a grassroots network. Are you able to hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm part of a grassroots resident network, and basically the way we work is we work at a neighborhood level, and we try to get everybody in the neighborhood ecosystem, organizations, government divisions, and anybody who's at the neighborhood. Our network is membership based off every player at the neighborhood. So we've been trying to do collective and collaborative work, system change at the neighborhood level. Most of our members previously are used to doing their own thing, carrying out their own individual programming, relying on resourcing from foundations, governments, doing what I would say like siloed work, important work, but nonetheless individual work. We've been trying to develop a network-based collective impact type of work together. And one of the difficulties has been, how do you resource the network as opposed to individual organizations or grassroots groups? And what we've done is we've intentionally created our own opportunities to seek funding at the time. And what we did was we leveraged the experience of each of our member organizations. So if they have a philanthropy group, if they have grant writers, sometimes we leverage them to go after specific grants for the whole network as opposed to individual organizations. We've also leveraged our own neighborhoods is going through a revitalization, and we've leveraged community benefit dollars to align with the network, to resource the network. And we've been able to secure 26.75 million on community benefits. And one of the buckets of community benefit is to support our network and its action plans. We're also intentionally going after federal dollars, provincial dollars, and city dollars for network actions and priorities. It's been a shift in cultural mindset to trying to get organizations to see themselves as part of the network and to resource the network, as opposed to the competitiveness of each organization trying to fund their own programs. So that's somewhat of our experience. It's not something that has ended. We're still forming a culture of thinking like a network and resourcing ourselves. Thank you.
Can I tease some more thought out of that last sentence that you said about behavioral shift and behavioral change, and trying to get people to understand that resourcing will benefit the entire network? What has been your experience? Have you had any success in that, and what has worked?
Yes, so I think luckily there are different, each of our members have a different background and mindset. For instance, service organizations that are not community development minded, which means they're used to the transactional, I have a service, there's a clientele of populations that need it. So it's almost transactional, in the way that they work. That has been difficult to onboard them in this mindset of network and collective impact. organizations that have community development as a background and as a philosophy, see that they're much more interested in collaboration. They're much more interested in doing things together. So we've been trying to leverage the closer members that already buy into the idea of collaboration, and the others we've been sort of in a monthly meeting sort of showcasing where there's alignment, that by supporting the network they're not losing we're not in competition with them. So it's an evolving conversation we're having with the different members, because each of them have a mindset that comes from the way they do their work. Also, city staff, and government staff, is in the city of Toronto, there's a huge community development unit and that work with community. And we've been trying to leverage the resources they give to networks. The idea of doing work through networks is gaining popular, but is just new. We also have a big philanthropy sector in Toronto that do poverty reduction, like the United Way. They raise about 120 million every year, and they do what's called anchor tenants. But we've been establishing, piloting, supporting networks and not just in anchor institutions. So it's an evolving conversation, but we try to leverage those who are very much closer in philosophy and try to bring in the others as well.
Thank you. Yes. Anybody else? What comes up for you? Or even what challenges have you had in trying to raise funds to be able to keep the network going, to fund operations, etc.?
Well, I in listening to Ismail, I think that the mindset piece, shifting from I'm doing this for myself and to being part of a network, is probably one of the most critical pieces. That in fact, that if we work together, there's enough for everyone. And that we can actually shift our work and focus our work on the things that we want to accomplish because of that. And it sounds like he has sort of in many ways figured it out from the community base, how to actually expand and fund the network itself. Which I would say within our national network is an issue. Not everyone can do that, or has done it yet. I think we're at the beginning stages of that process.
Has anybody else on this call? Oh, actually, Aline, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aline Sarajevo-Kelo. I'm from the Rural Water Supply Network. I'm part of the Secretariat, which is hosted by SCAT Foundation, but the network is composed of various organizations and individual members from all over the world. Majority of our constituencies, though, are in Africa and Asia. So we have been funded for over 20 years by SDC in Switzerland. And as of end of last year, they have announced that they will be stopping some of the core funding that we have been providing, the unrestricted funding to the network. So we have been doing an exercise to try to see how we can close this gap in terms of funding, and how to leverage our member organizations, our individual members, how to really close these gaps to be able to continue to provide these services. So I just wanted to share this experience. And my question is majority, so we have been doing some surveys trying to interact with our members, and majority of our members are from the low income countries, and they don't have so much the willingness or the capacity to raise the funding to bridge the gap. So how do you address this challenge when majority of your constituencies don't have the financial capacity to bridge the gap? Thank you.
Yeah, anybody have some insights for Aline on that?
You know, actually, we need all the time to think about our internal resources and power. I mean, you know, this problem is faced by all the people and organizations who work for the non-governmental sector in the world. And maybe, not because that I'm a specialist in social entrepreneurship, but I do believe that social entrepreneurship could help people to discover, you know, another side in their personalities when they are doing, you know, community development work. Because when you get rid of this idea that you are relying all the time on the donors and you need to find a solution, you know, you will use your creativity and connect it with your innovation and come up with an entrepreneurial project. I do believe that even that when we are talking about the low-income countries, you know, they have their own resources, you know, they have their way to develop things. But as we are living in a globe that based on neoliberal approach and globalization, you know, we need to think about the data that we have from years ago. We need to process these data and reproduce it in such a way that could be sold, but under the main title that we are doing this for a social purpose, not for profits or making money.
One thing I wanted to add was like I'm trying to problem solve this as well. And I think the idea here is there's not a single source that you can really rely on. You have to do sort of what do you call play at multiple levels, you could say. I think one of the most interesting pieces I'm working on right now is establishing good relationships with the philanthropy sector. I think what do you call in the world of poverty reduction, there are lots of foundations, governments that are injecting lots of money into poverty reduction. The question is, what do you call their existing relationships and existing ways of funneling resources. If you're doing something interesting, innovative, impactful, and you're not part of the traditional what do you call ways of resourcing, if that's what's been working for you, you keep at that, right? You keep applying for those grants, you keep doing. But if you're new and you're doing something interesting and you're doing some networks, because networks I think are a bit different, they're not very traditional, you have to have and set up relationships with the philanthropy sections. You have to have set up relationships with government, what do you call it, divisions, units, managers, so that you can showcase your work, how it's different, and what do you call it, in the cycle of people are looking for innovation. So I would say center everything in relationship building and diversify how you receive your funds, and be intentional in the ways you do your work. Every organization has a grant writing side. You must also develop in similar skills. And I'm also interested in the social enterprise. To what's the scope and scale of a social enterprise being able to support networks? If it's supporting one program, that's good enough. If it can support multiple programs, that's even better. But I would say my first recommendations would be set up relationships and conversations with the philanthropy sector, because there's a lot of potential resources that's held there.
I'm trying not to put too much intervention in this conversation and trying to leave the space for folks to jump in. But I'll mention one thing that was brought up during the registration process for today's event. We had asked a few questions of people. And one of the ideas that came up was this idea of pooling funds. There wasn't a lot of elaboration in somebody's response, but has anybody had an experience where they've tried to perhaps pool funds amongst their network members as a way to both generate and maintain some funding for the operation of the network?
So we have not done that. I think that one of the traps that I've observed over the last 15 years as the network has evolved is as we go in and out of a fluctuating economy, the mindset of lack for all organizations is such a huge barrier. And even though they can see the need to work together, when we get into the pressure moments of not having enough, there's sort of a fight or flight. And I've seen some organizations throw others under the bus and things like that. And so how to not be part of that drama, as it were, around lack and understanding that if in fact they would work together, there's more than enough. We've been able to, through our advocacy work, actually get funding from state government for summer programs to go directly to community-based organizations. So this summer we have 50 million. Last summer we had 40 million. And the barriers that government sets up for community-based organizations, there's some structural pieces that we're trying to solve because of fear that government has around insurances. So if it goes to a local school district, there's insurance, there are assurances by the district. And if it goes directly to a community-based organization, especially the culturally specific organizations, we have found it very difficult to sort of meet the structural needs that are put upon us by government. And I just say to them, if you work together, there will be more money.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed in my own network is before we've been able to secure specific funds for our network, what we did was we leveraged the human resources of our membership. So what that means is every organization that's part of the network have their own staffing, and we leverage those staff hours to move the network work along. Most of resources is spent on staff and staff time. So when we did not have actual dollars, we leveraged our own membership staffing time, so that they could dedicate not only on their own organizational work, but they could also dedicate time on network activities and actions. That also took some time to convince and sort of get people to understand by working through the network, they're actually fulfilling their own organizational mandates. So that was also one strategy we've used.
What I would like to mention also that the pooling fund is connected with somehow with the philosophy of social entrepreneurship, because actually it depends on finding investors for the program that you develop in order to serve the community. And here we need to understand the new concepts and terminologies. We have something that we call business angels. They are investors who invest in the social sector in such a way that could help any network or organization to develop its project and meet the needs of the people, and later on they leave. And also you can find investors who are totally interested in investing in a project that could that could generate income, and you can, you know, develop a partnership agreement with them according to your priorities. But in all the cases, this is something that we are focusing so much on. I can mention one of the main examples in our experience is Drosos Foundation, which is a Swiss organization. Actually, we had to sign with them an agreement before 8 years ago. They invested in our main social enterprises here, and one of them is the Puppets for Kids program. And they had to leave when they felt that we are able to sustain ourselves and we don't rely on donors in order to make sure that the program and its activities is are running without any obstacles or challenges.
How do you get in touch with, are there any ways that you recommend to get in touch with these sort of business angel connections?
Seema, it's very easy. You can go to LinkedIn and just write business angels, and you will find a lot of people who actually invest in success stories. You know, they are not interested in the project that developed or submitted, but when they feel that there is something that could be created in terms of impact, you know, they give their money because they are change makers. But they like, you know, to call themselves investors, because at the end of the day, they are against this philanthropic way of thinking, you know, that you need to get money and to spend it, as Ismail mentioned about the salaries and the human resources, without having a real sustainability of what you are doing.
I do think there is a shift of thinking. So we have an entrepreneurs network here. So we've been having conversations with them, and they have a group in the Entrepreneurs Network that is a business angel group. And there is, so yesterday on NPR, there was a long dialogue around the origins of philanthropy and how philanthropy started and why it is. And I think we're going to see some changes in the philanthropic community. May take a while, but.
Christina, I hope it's okay to put you on the spot. You shared something interesting in the chat that we haven't approached yet. Things such as crowdfunding, but do you want to, if you feel comfortable unmuting and sort of sharing your experience verbally?
Hello, and sorry I was late. I got the time wrong. I'm Christina, and I'm in the Yucatan Peninsula in the land of the Maya in Mexico. And I help coordinate the Conservation Coaches Network. And in the chat, I shared that we organize a meeting about every 2 years to come together in our community. It's a global community of people who support conservation projects. And, you know, sometimes we help, we've done crowdfunding campaigns to help offer stipends for colleagues who have challenges to get to the meetings. And that way, you know, we tap into our own connections, family, friends, and so we expand our own network. But we also had colleagues from the network who could not attend, say, well, I can't go, but I'm willing to give, I don't know, $100, $500 so that someone else can go. So we didn't raise a lot of money. So money-wise, it wasn't huge. But for the community, it really showed that, you know, those connections are strong, and we got a lot of people to support. And I think it was you, Ismail, who mentioned the in-kind support as well. So our network works mostly with volunteer support. So we have a very small budget for core operations, and then about 3 times that amount is donated or contributed in kind by colleagues around the world who coordinate the regional networks in the different geographies. So it's a significant amount, but we're also reaching the limits of that. It worked very well for several years, and we see that we are reaching the boundaries of depending so much on volunteer work.
I'm curious about the decision-making process. So for someone like your organization, Christina, the not just the funding, but the process of what it is you're going to fund, how the work that you're going to do, how does that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question, Beth. So we have a board, and our board is strange in the way that it's not made up as in nonprofits. It's not made up by wealthy people or by, you know, people who could give us those connections to funders, but it's made up by, we have regional networks. So we have one in Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and so on. And so the representatives of all those networks and communities of practice make up our board. And so we make sure that we are really representing the needs of our network. And it's a network of individuals, so we do not charge a membership fee. And that's how we make decisions. So we have a 3-year strategic plan that we update, and the 3-year budget. And then every year with the board, we review our annual work plan and budget and estimated income. And then we work with that. And so if we have not raised all the funds we need, we reduce costs so that we do not incur in a deficit.
Great, thank you.
Looks like we lost Mohammed. Oh, there we go. What about folks that we haven't heard from about sharing any experiences that you've had or any challenges that haven't quite worked well and you're looking for some insights or advice?
I
My
have a
name's Phil
question.
Allen in Spokane.
Oh, go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm in Spokane, Washington, working with a network of social justice organizations that see themselves as connected, but not in a formal way at this point. One of the challenges that I work as a volunteer with one of them that has more money than others. So one of the challenges is getting our steering committee / board and staff to see our responsibility in helping to help lift everybody up, because we've just been lucky in the fundraising that we've been doing in the last couple of years. And so it just highlights the power differential in bigger organizations. And we're not really big, right? We have 3 staff people and not a huge budget, but relative to the other groups, that's a problem. So trying to work as other people were talking about to help everybody see their common interest in resourcing the network. The network organization that does exist is very poorly funded, and other organizations are just struggling to survive, so that they haven't been able to see above their heads either. So that's is this power differential is the thing that I would point to as a challenge. Power around money in particular.
Christina, did you have a question?
Yes, maybe it's more a philosophical question, but I think this group is exactly the one to help think about that. So in our case, we are a very loose network in the sense that we really share, power decisions, and we are not formally registered as an organization. So one of the organizations where I work, which is the Nature Conservancy, is like the legal and financial sponsor so that we can receive funds, but we don't get charged ICR or any of that. However, that also, while it does have benefits, it also has limitations, because we have to get in the queue of accessing certain donors that maybe are deemed more a priority for other things. So we are trying to decide, in a way, it's nice that we have so much volunteer support, because that is the glue that brings us together as a community, where everyone has a sense of, sometimes I take something and sometimes I give something back. And at the same time, it is limiting our growth and what we can do. And so I was just wondering, how have others addressed this when you reached a certain limit of maturity in your network and you are ready for the next step? And we're trying to figure out those things in our sustainability plan, but is it recommended to register? Because we're not a nonprofit, we're a network. And so we're trying to figure out, what is that entity if we were to register? And how could we not give up all the good sides of the community and sharing the load, and then having it turn into, power issues, which we currently don't face?
I think that's one of the questions one of our members actually brought up, and we were thinking, and some of the things that come to my mind is the ability to wear multiple hats, not restricting yourselves to one hat. So you can be a network and create this what's called a backbone support, or backbone. So you can create a nonprofit or a charitable nonprofit that supports the network. What do you call it? And then you can also create a social enterprise that supports the network. So the network itself can be as fluid as it is now, but could have other organizations that you've created yourselves, whether it be social enterprise based, whether it's charitable nonprofit based, or whether it's even a business. So you can create these other entities to help support the network and diversify your ability to garner resources from everywhere. So I've not seen a network that does that has a charitable nonprofit supporting it, a social enterprise supporting it, and also a business type of thing supporting it. But there's no limitations, I would say. The only limitations is around, and I think businesses do this. I've seen a developer who's a developer start a nonprofit charitable. I've seen a developer start a charitable foundation. So, and the reason why they do this is they do this for tax purposes, but they're able to diversify and create multiple entities and structures to help fulfill their mandates and goals. And I think networks could do that in order to do their work.
Thank you, Ismail. That's great.
You know, maybe I can mention two examples. The Creativity Lab for Empowerment and Innovation. It's a Palestinian initiative. It includes more than 300 members who are coming from Palestine and outside the country. Actually, we insist not to register this organization because really we would like to change the mindset of the Palestinian NGOs in terms of their relationship with the donors. You know, we tackle this from two perspective, you know, from a political one and even from a social one. We do feel that solidarity is not as before in Palestine because of the money of the donors. And the second example that I would like to mention is the Action for Sustainable Development, which is a global platform. You know, I have the pleasure to be one of their members, BOD members, and actually we are hosted by an international organization, and we have all the time a discussion, an internal discussion, in order to, let's say, arrange, you know, our relationship with this hosting organization, and we still attract, you know, the donors, and they are working with Action for Sustainable Development, as all the concepts of our relationship with the GCAP, the hosting organization, are clear and documented according to our agreement with them.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Okay, we've just got a few minutes left. So I wanted to open it up for any sort of closing thoughts, insights, questions, parting wisdom. Anybody have anything to share?
Yeah, one of the last things I want to comment on is the need and sort of the competitiveness, whether you're offering something of value in the environment you're in. Sometimes if you're unable to resource your network, or sometimes you're unable to expand and grow, you'd always have to ask yourself whether there's a shift that needs to happen. Because one of the things I've seen is what you call programs, organizations, network that are trying to subsist and exist when their mandate or when their competitiveness or when their impact is not felt. So there needs to be an internal look again to renew and refresh the mandate, and whether the level of interest and engagement is due to lack of capacity or lack of what do you call of redesigning or reshifting. I've seen multiple organizations that have done a lot of great work in the city of Toronto for the past 50 years. And some of them are reshifting, some of them are refocusing, and some of them are taking a look back and seeing, could our work look different? So sometimes sustainability for the sake of sustainability without innovation and impact is problematic. And so you have to know when to close shop as well and do something different.
Sima, the last thing that I would like to share, that social entrepreneurship is all about purpose and impact. Imagine that this is done when we are talking about individual organizations, but when we have a network, we have you know, a lot of members, a lot of resources. It means that if we adopt social entrepreneurship as a way in order to generate income for networks, you know, we will be more powerful and able to achieve our community objectives.
It's great. Two great parting thoughts and wisdom to leave the group with. Any last thoughts before I close things out? Okay, great. Well, I appreciate everybody joining. If you look at slide 10 in the link, let me see if I could repaste it in the slide deck that I sent the link to. This is just some upcoming opportunities that we have. We host Introduction to Networks and Introduction to Network Management monthly. So, and we try to rotate the times that we hold them so that it can accommodate different time zones. We have a Networks in Action session, which is like this, but it's much more interactive. It's actually almost a bit like a real-time brainstorming session to really flesh out and unpack ideas. And the next one will be on accountability in networks. And then we're hosting a working group on inclusive networks in all the ways that you really think about that terminology. So if you're interested in joining, all of these links are live, and with the exception of Networks in Action. So we would love to have some additional participation. And if anyone is interested in hosting or being a panelist in one of these conversations, we would love to have you. Both Beth and Mohammad sort of came to us in that breath, sort of, joining the conversation and sharing their experience and insights. So really grateful to both of them for being here and your willingness and your time. Yes, Christina, I'll definitely give you access to the slides, and I really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. I really enjoy the small intimate groups. I think it generates a good intimacy, and I really appreciate everybody being here for this. Ismail, are you? Oh, that's not a hand raise, that's a clap. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks again, Beth and Mohammad.
Thank you, Seema.
Okay, be well. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.